Try to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
Total protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal.
Protonic Reversal with your host, Conan Neutron. Broadcasting from a secret underground lair in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
A gigantic middle finger to everything that is rock about music, rock and roll, and corporate power.
The thing is, though, if you don't laugh, you're going to go on a killing spree with sharp and nails.
Confidence of a hero or a fool. I wasn't exactly certain which.
Could not be more professional.
It means something. It means something. You know, that's my take on it. What's yours?
Protonic Reversal!
That's like a science thing, right?
Indeed it is. It is a science thing. It is a science place. It is a scientific fact. I think we're all up in your face. It is time once again for the one, the only Protonic Reversal. Welcome to it. Welcome to it. Welcome to it. This Thursday, I'm very pleased to be presenting a Texan. We got a Texan on the show tonight. An excellent dude, excellent musician, Mr. Dave Norwood. Welcome to the show, buddy. Appreciate having you.
Excellent.
Excellent. Yes, indeed. That could have been the name of your last release, but you missed the boat. Yes. No, it's FALLOW. Of course, the name of the record is FALLOW. Just came out not that long ago.
Yeah, in March.
So I mean, I don't know how we're quantifying now, but a COVID release, I suppose. Like, isn't everything a COVID release now? I guess, but
I guess it was recorded pre-COVID. Just get that out of the way. But we were kind of holding off. Add a couple more songs and it becomes a full length. And then our friend John wanted to go ahead and put it out, and so we just rolled with it. During COVID times, during the plague.
During the quarantines, yeah. I mean, it's been interesting talking to folks having records coming out, because there definitely was that sort of like, oh, well, let's be a couple weeks, let's just wait it out, and then it's like, oh, and by a couple weeks, I guess we meant a couple months, and so on and so on. Not telling anybody anything they don't already know, of course. So this is I'm 7 years between Farewell Foolish Objects and this. Is that right? Is that because you put out info first, right? But like it's been a minute. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
And is this the first one that isn't Paul Warner on drums? This is first one, Anthony, right?
The first one with Anthony on drums. Yeah, Anthony Castaneda. Paul moved to the Bay Area and is in an excellent band called Cover right now.
Yes, with the mighty Craig Eastman.
Yeah.
Also of Hurry Up Shotgun, also Greenlight the Bombers, and everything is just connected. Everything is very connected, and it's interesting because I heard of you guys, the Gary that is, first before knowing that it was Paul Warner playing drums in the band. I was like, oh, cool, interesting. Being one of the few people who actually knew Paul Warner from his previous outfits. Long running band though. You guys have been at it for a while, and did you have starting the Gary, I'm not going to say later in life, but not like anybody was like teenagers or anything. Did you have the idea that you wanted to build a band that was sort of built to last from the outset?
No, we went into it not really expecting anything. Paul and I played in a band called Rossi Mission before the Gary, and it was me and Paul's ex-wife Steph, and our friends Jaron and Laura, who were also married. They were in a band called AM Syndicate, and Chris, who was also in We'll Go Machete, and we did that for a couple of years, and it was great fun, and it was pretty much just a party band. And when that ended, me and Paul were kind of like, well, what next? And the Gary happened. Paul had played with Trey 3 or 4 years before all that, when he first moved to Austin. I met Paul on Craigslist. Trey and Paul met on Craigslist. Casual encounters. No. And then we that's how we all, the Craigslist music classified. That's how we all ended up, getting together. And here in Austin, we had all moved to Austin around 2004. And no, I think we just thought it was going to be like Rossi Mission, where we're around for a couple of years and, we have some fun with it, and then we move on to the next thing, Yeah. I had no idea it was going to be a long-standing thing. It's the first band I ever sang for, and I had no idea that was, I thought people were going to hear me sing and run out the room, nothing to do with it. And so I was real sheepish about it at first. And I'm like, guys, this is just going to flop. And they were real good about kind of nurturing me through it. And, I had a very difficult time playing bass and singing at the same time. Always loved writing lyrics, but just never did well with singing. And Paul and Trey in the beginning of it, they were like, go, and I was just, oh shit. And it's amazing that it has lasted as long as it has. I didn't see it going more than a couple of years in the beginning, but it just goes and goes,
Well, and it seems like with every release, there's been something that it feels like you guys have to say, like some new thing that you're digging down into, some aspect or facet of what you've done before, that you're pushing yourselves to, not lose what made the band cool in the first place, but try out some different stuff, try out some different things. And I think anytime where you trust your band members like that, like it kind of opens up the possibilities that like it's not going to be a a short volume, a short story. You can actually.
Yeah, I really owe a lot to those guys for just kind of like telling me, keep going, just keep going. We're here, we're in this room, we're still playing, keep singing. And after about 6 months of it, it just became second nature,
well, and it's first of all, it's a 3-piece band, and also as a band that isn't relying on volume, that isn't relying on effects or noise. There's not a lot of cover too. So for someone that's, when you started out, not being a dude that like had really been singing and playing the whole time, did you have any exercises or any disciplines you put yourself through to kind of help yourself get that limb independence and be able to concentrate on the two things and make sure that it's all working?
Yeah, a lot of going to the practice room by myself. Right before the Gary, there was kind of a proto Gary. That was me and my buddy Laura Bianco. She was also in Rossi Mission and also an AM Syndicate alumni. She was also real cool about like not wincing whenever I did something. Like, she was very, hang on one second. My mom's trying to call me. Let me decline this call.
That's adorable.
I'm sorry, Mom. I will talk to you later.
Talk about my art now, if you please.
yeah, this is me time. Me and Conan time.
Exactly. You're on a very popular internet radio show podcast. Come on.
They were. It was just a lot of. I come from dreadfully low self-esteem, and just the thought of raising my voice was a very hard thing for me to wrap my head around. Even though it's something I had wanted to do all my life. And meanwhile, I was in my late 30s. It's like if you're going to do it, you need to do it. So I had some really great people around me who were helping me with it and encouraging me to do it, to the point where I was doing it, and where it became normalized, So I owe a lot to those people.
Well, if it seems like I'm kind of dwelling on those early times, it's only because I think it's a little atypical for musicians to kind of dive in and try something that different like later on. I think it's kind of more commonplace for someone to sort of stick with what they've, if I just play bass, I just play drums, I just sing, I just play guitar. So I think the whole approach to singing and playing like later on kind of seems like it comes out of a different place than if you're like 17 years old, right? Like you're a different kind of person, you got a different kind of life, you got different kind of expectations of what you're trying to get out of it. And I think that's interesting because I'm a big fan of the, Bukowski didn't start writing books till he was 35 years old. I think that's interesting.
I've always, people like that, Robert Pollard or Henry Miller or, people who didn't start, turning shit out until they were, hitting 40 or passing through it, those people inspire me. Juana Molina, people like that who, it makes me feel like my work is just getting started and the first half of my life was just was living and learning and this part of my life is the doing part, or I try to do,
Why not? I mean, there's no reason
try to learn too in the process, but
yeah, I mean, societal propaganda says that music is a young person's game, and certainly it's easier. But I think that when there's a choice to be made for the folks that want to do it or the need to do it, ways to make it work, and they find avenues and procedures to make it worthwhile for everyone. Hopefully, well, and one of the reasons also because when I first heard the Gary. One of the things that immediately struck me is how authoritative your voice sounded. Like you sounded like a dude that's a dude that like knows himself, knows what he can do. He's not going to try to do something that like he's not willing to do. And it's awesome because it's the tentative nature, I think, especially of the younger artists where they're maybe still finding out, still figuring it out. It sounded figured out to me. And I think that that's also compelling because you just don't see a lot of people again starting in at like that section of their life to try new stuff, really. At least creatively, unless there's someone that's been doing it the entire time. So tell me about that first recording. Was that because you had your other bands recorded before? You put out records?
Yeah, I mean, not as a singer, but I'd done other stuff. I've been putting out records since I was, 20 years old, but as a bass player, or just in bands and stuff. And
CDRs. get some CDRs, like
yeah.
That was always a good tour mainstay. Oh, we got a 2-song CDR. Here, we can make $2, maybe get a half a gallon of gas.
Put up 7 inches and stuff. I would do short runs of 7 inches, and a lot of them would just get, go to my friends or, wait 1 second. I'm starting to fall back on, if I start saying, over and over again, will you please say something? That's a big reason why I don't do interviews often, because it drives me nuts how many times I say, Okay, we're gonna recognize it now.
Yes.
We're gonna keep. Okay.
I'll keep you honest.
I have wanted to sing for a really long time. I have been writing lyrics since I was a teenager, and it's something I wanted a vehicle to convey those lyrics. And so in my head, I know how I'm conveying them. I know how I want to give them, but I guess I've practiced it in my head so many times to the point when the Gary started that I knew that I knew it just came out right. I had done recordings at home, and I have a tendency to hear the song in my head before it gets passed over to the band, and it's pretty realized in my head at that point, and then the band does a version of it, and then we record it, and at that point I know how it's going to happen vocally. So I think as far as the authoritative way, you were saying I convey lyrics or whatever, my words. I think that's because I've kind of sucked on it for a while.
Yeah, you constructed the track in your head, but way before you put the slot car on it, or so to
Right.
speak.
Right. But as far as how sounding authoritative, I worry about it sounding like when my daughter, whenever I would say something to her, she'd say, "Dad, stop yelling at me," and I'm like, "I'm just saying it. I'm not yelling," So,
right, yeah.
The audience thinking I'm yelling at them. I'm not yelling. I'm just saying.
No, and when I say authoritative, I just mean that it sounds like you have the courage of your convictions with whatever it is you're singing about at that moment in time, and I found that usually to be the case with most bands that would have singing that I enjoy for sure, and I think it's kind of like almost the key to being a good artist is, even if you're sitting there filling your pants up with terror, don't don't stop the boat. Keep going.
Right. I'm sure you know this as a singer too. If you can't get behind what you're saying, it's really hard to say it. And I think that is something with me. I have to know what I'm talking about, and I have to be able to get behind it 100%. And I think that has to do with my delivery also.
I mean, not that you're modeling yourself after anyone, because I think you have, just by nature of the band and by nature of who you are, you have a very unique presentation. But is there anyone that kind of sprung to mind as like, oh, it's cool how that person does that? Again, since singing is something that maybe only existed internally in your head for a while before actually doing it, was there anyone that kind of sprang to mind that like, oh, like that, or or don't do that even, like kind of, was it a thing gallant? Was that the highlights thing, right?
When we first started, my model was Peter Jeffries. He's got a lower voice that could cut through noise and could do it emotively and that's I wanted to do what Peter Jeffries did. And I don't know if you're very familiar with him. He's from New Zealand. He was in This Kind of Punishment. Kind of has a lower voice, played piano over it, often very noisy piano.
Yeah.
I was really into him, and his lyrics were often deeply personal, and I knew that was in the realm of what I wanted to do. Also, Rob Wright from No Means No was a big one too. So I'd say that those are probably the big two. The big two were Rob Wright and Peter Jeffries.
I think you can kind of split that difference, and that makes that tracks. The Trey's guitar playing is I'm a big fan of it. I think it's very. You would think that it would be something you could say for everything, but very musical kind of guitar playing. Like he's not a player that hides behind noise, distortion, et cetera, et cetera. Was that something that kind of came together as a conceit with the band, or was it that's just how it all came out when you guys played?
That's how Trey plays guitar. This is how I play bass. That's how Paul and Anthony play drums. That's just I kind of doubled the role of rhythm guitar player and bass player in the band, and real chordy, and that's always been a problem with some guitar players I've played with in the past. Was my tendency to play the bass like a guitar, play real chordy. Again, that's the Rob Wright coming out in me, and the way Trey works with it is he kind of garnishes it and plays on top of it more than plays inside it. He really decorates it, I guess.
Yeah, and the cleaner tone actually helps with that, because it sounds it's the distinction is very there, because you have the the low end kind of grinding is the wrong word, but kind of, I mean, you're hitting these like big resonant frequencies, and then you have this kind of real the melody phrases that he's doing, or the chords or whatever, like it kind of it happens over it, and it would be an overused distinction for a three-piece rock band, but almost Minutemen style, just without the not that it sounds like the Minutemen, but in the way of the distinction between the frequencies and the instruments. Like, it seems to be very. Can you tell me a little about Chub? Tell me about that record and how did that come to pass and where we guys were as a band. And I think what we'll do is we'll just kind of go through all of them, and then when we get to the new one, we can kind of do a song by song and get a little more in depth on that one. But tell me about Chub first.
Wow, we're actually talking about music and not politics. I think I'm going to enjoy
it. Yep.
So, Chub, we weren't around as a band very long. First of all, most of the songs on Chub had existed for a while. I'm trying to think of what songs didn't exist. Oh, Freaks Go Forward is a straight up Trey song. He wrote that, all of that. That's all Trey. Everything else, I went through this big creative spurt from around 2000, just after my daughter was born. It was around 2003, 2004. I was living in Alvin, Texas, and I wrote about, say, 80 to 100 songs, and we call those songs the well. Whenever the Gary needs songs, we go, well, what's going on from, let's bring something out from the well. That when we say the well, we mean that era, and that era is me living in Texas and usually thinking a lot about Arizona, where I used to live. And well, anyway, that Chub came from the well. It came from me reflecting in Texas on things I had experiences I had in Arizona, and writing songs about it. So I'd say exploration goes all the way back to the mid to late 90s. Damn Machines was about working at a factory in Alvin, then driving to work. So that was a straight up made in Texas song. Confusion was a song that I wrote in my head at work. That's the one song that I probably the only song that was just fully formed in my head. And it just came out exactly how I thought it. We had only been a band for about 6 months before we recorded it. We kind of jumped right in.
Still pretty fresh, yeah.
Really fresh. And we didn't know what we sounded like. We just, we booked some time at Hot Track Studio, which used to be in East Austin. And our buddy Matt Smith, he ran that studio. And I loved the vibe of it, and I was very comfortable there. And I knew if we recorded there, that was gonna be my first effort recording in a real studio, doing vocals. And I knew I needed a really comfortable place. Yeah. And I'd recorded there with Rossi Mission, and was just really comfortable there, really comfortable with Matt. And so we did it there. And after it happened, we were like, whoa, so that's what we sound like. We had no idea that's what we sounded like. And I was pretty familiar with the songs anyway, so it wasn't that big of a deal to me. But I think Trey was just like, holy shit, let's put this out. And we put it out, and he got a publicist for it. And I was like, a publicist? Why do we need a publicist? And
like what, 2008, 2009, somewhere around that neighborhood, right?
Yeah. And that was back when publicists worked. So like when
back when there was still a possibility of a publicist like picking up on an indie band, yeah.
Right.
I don't know why I'm laughing. I'm laughing to stop from crying, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I think there's just so much out there now that it's just hard for stuff to really cut through at this point. But we got all this amazing reception nationally and internationally, and I was I was just really taken aback by it. I'd never really been in a band that had gotten that kind of attention, and locally we were getting all kinds of attention. We were kind of the flavor of the month in Austin for a little while, and getting offered really good shows, and it was a really strange and amazing time. And so that was Chub. I don't know what else to say about Chub.
Yeah, you mentioned Arizona, and I don't want to lose the opportunity to talk about that, because I just, for whatever reason, I'm not sure why, don't have many people on the show that have any connection whatsoever to Arizona. And I think Arizona is a fascinating state. And I choose my word carefully when I say fascinating. There's a lot to love, and there's a lot you just kind of.
It's definitely a double-edged sword for sure. I lived there for close to 20 years, and my parents moved out there when I was, I'm tending bar, when I was 12, and they moved back to Texas when I was 19. And I hated Arizona when I first moved out there, just absolutely hated it. I was from deep East Texas. Yeah. We lived out in the middle of nowhere, out in the piney woods, in between Longview and Marshall, this little town called Hallsville. And we moved out there, and I hated it. And then just through force and experience and everything else, learned to love it by the end of it, And I lived out there till I was 30 years old, and kind of bouncing around Tucson, Flagstaff, and Phoenix, and had a wonderful time in Flagstaff in the early 90s, just being a part of the punk scene there.
Yeah, Flagstaff was a good place to play.
Absolutely. There's a lot of, it's a college town. It's a weird transient town. You got the college kids, you got the kids coming off the res, you got the people who are from there, from Flagstaff, the townies, and it's just this weird mix of people, and had a wonderful time there, and then moved to Tucson in the mid 90s and had a wonderful time there. But again, it was a double-edged sword. It was, I say wonderful, it was also a very hard time. And always trying to get in bands and trying to get my ideas across.
Yeah.
It was always difficult. If you were really into like Discord and touch and go stuff, and you're living in Flagstaff, it's kind of hard to connect with people. And
yeah,
because the place is about 10 years behind the times, right. And it was still very 1983 there, and but there's still a lot of cool, innovative stuff going on at the time.
Well, and it's an interesting area too. I mean, I remember you were the first person to tell me about the Eastern Tower at the Grand Canyon, and I thought that was, that was like really cool, and that's something that I wouldn't have known about if a former local hadn't mentioned it, right? And I thought that
the Watchtower. I used to work there. Yeah, that's right. You and Lindsay went out there. When was that?
Christ, a million years ago. Probably like 6-7 years ago, something like that.
Yeah. Remember y'all going out there, and that was a great opportunity working out there, especially when I was like 27 years old, and just not working there during the winter season, not having it was a neat time to isolate myself, and I would during really confusing and awful times in my life. I've got a long history with depression and stuff, and when it would really come down to it, I would often just get a job in one of the national parks and go work there for a season and kind of clean the slate, and then go back out in the world and do what I could do, and then eventually end up back in a national park, back in Brighton or Yellowstone or Grand Canyon, and just hunker down.
Clear the cobwebs a little, maybe reset a little bit.
Yeah. And it worked for me. It really worked for me. I recommend it for anyone who is kind of in between things and not really knowing what they're going to do next. It's a good place to go and just experience something new, get paid for it. And
certainly helps put things in perspective. That's for darn sure, too. When you look at the scope and scale of some of this stuff, you're like, oh, all right, well, what was I concerned with?
Yeah.
Cosmically, not that important, actually. So, okay, all right.
Working in Bryce Canyon, the first season I did in Bryce Canyon. That was the first time I had ever was ever really able to step outside of myself and step outside of all that chaos and just enjoy the moment.
Yeah. Have you when writing music first then lyrics, or have you in the past written stuff ahead of time and then kind of found stuff to fit it, or gone the other way?
It's usually lyrics first then music. Every so often, it's not very often, where the Gary will jam something and then I'll take some lyrics and then put it on top of the jam and it becomes a song. But usually I'll come in with something that started as lyrics and then became music, and then I usually write it on my acoustic guitar, or I've got an old Eco bass that belonged to my dad, and that was the bass. That's what I started playing bass on when I was 12, and there's a wonderful familiarity with it. I'll write on that, but yeah, usually lyrics first, music. For a really good song, lyrics first, music, and then
one can hope, yeah. I sorry, I didn't want to get too much into locations, but I find the American Southwest to be very fascinating, especially for creative individuals. You get very few.
I should say I'm very informed by it. Creatively, I am very informed by the American Southwest. So
and that's why I wanted to talk a little bit about it, because I think those experiences kind of shine through in the lyrics and the music and the feel sometimes, just how things fit together. And I think it's a unique voice, and it's something that certainly there are, what do you got, Calexico, Giant Sand, and it's not like you guys are the only ones doing that, but there's fans where it just comes through, and that's an asset. I think it's far better to be unique and interesting in a certain way, rather than that just sounds like this. It's not this band from New York sounds like this band from LA. It sounds like this band from Chicago. That sounds like who's looking for that? Not me. Thank you. So then the next so then tell me about the over to Logan. That's about a year between those, right?
Yeah. I think Chub came out in 2008 or two. We recorded it in 2008. We recorded Logan in 2009. It came out in 2010. So yeah, I think it came out like New Year's 2010. We did it in two parts. We did half of it in Matt Smith's Hot Track Studios, the other half in Chico Jones' Ohm Studios. And like I said, there were there were a lot of songs on there that came from Arizona, or thinking about Arizona, or my experiences in Arizona.
Yeah, there's a lot of rich imagery in that one.
Yeah. There's Houses, which is strictly about the Texas coastal bend and the rich people who build their subsidized mansions out there. And there's that.
Yeah, QSB. That's a solid tune. Yeah.
Oh, QSB. Yeah. I wrote that one while sitting in a park, in the Quarry Park in Convict Hill. It's the quarry where they mined the stones or a lot of the stones for the Texas Capitol, and it's a park kind of near where I live. Wrote that. I was just thinking about. I had read something somewhere where someone was just painting with a broad brush about something, and which is a lot of politics in Texas, just broad strokes, a lot of broad strokes out here, and I think that was it. It had something to do with that. I can't remember the specifics of why, which is funny. The song's about specificity, and I can't remember the specifics of.
Generally specific, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a record that, not to break up, but that's a record that kind of the cover for it sort of, to me, matches what the music sounds like inside. The fact that you got, this sort of picturesque houses. You got this gigantic, like, looming dust storm,
Right.
just like an imposing eldritch entity.
Right. That's an old Dust Bowl photo. Paul Warner dug that up. Paul Warner always did our well, he didn't do Chub, Trey did Chub. He got those fish on the cover of Chub. He got it from a bait catalog. Trey's a fisherman, and I think he was adamant. Our first record's going to be called Chub, and we're going to have these 3 fish on the front. And like, all right,
Chub's a type of bait fish,
it
right?
is.
Yeah. I don't know how I know. How do I know that? I don't know how I know that. I don't know fish. I don't know anything about fishing, but I happen to know that. So,
I mean, through osmosis, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. Generalized racial osmosis. Sure. Yeah, and you got well, you already mentioned houses. Eyes in the Tap Room, Hurricane Radio.
Eyes in the Tap Room. When I lived in Tucson, there's a bar there at the bottom of Hotel Congress called the Tap Room. I think now it's called Tiger's Tap Room. Tiger used to be a guy who, this wonderful queer dude who used to tend bar in the daytimes there, and I used to go there like right when it opened at noon, and just hang out with Tiger and hang out with my friend Aaron Logan, and just all the Pete Martinez drawings around. There's this guy named Pete Martinez who used to, back in the 30s, I think it was back in the 20s or 30s, he used to trade his drawings for beer. And so they kept them, and they've got, I don't know if they still do. I haven't been to the Tap Room in years. I'm not sure if they still have this or not. I'm sure it's
awesome. That's great. That's like old school barter. That's like some 1500. Yeah. Can I pay you a song?
All around, there are these amazing Pete Martinez cowboy pictures.
That's beautiful. Love it.
I mean, for all I know, the Tap Room's a douchey bar now, and Tucson's going through a lot of the growing pains that Austin's going through too. So who knows? I haven't been there in years. Maybe they put up all the Pete Martinez drawings for $50,000 each or something. Who knows?
Yeah,
but
maybe
I spent a lot of myself at the, I'm sorry?
I said the art's the same, but the drink prices are more expensive. Probably is the most likely scenario.
A drink called the Pete Martinez or something.
Yeah, exactly. That's $10.
Yeah, but I had a lot of wonderful and horrific experiences in that bar. I made the biggest ass of myself in that bar, and but I cherished the whole thing. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed all those moments in that bar, and that's what that song is about. Then the jukebox, in the Gary song, it says jukebox playing Peggy Lee again, or what does it say? Jukebox playing. It brings up Peggy Lee and Giant Sand, and they had both those things on the jukebox, and jukebox playing Johnny Cash again, Peggy Lee and Giant Sand. Those things were always playing. God, I regret not being a huge Giant Sand fan back when I lived there. And he was kind of on hiatus at the time. Have you interviewed Hal Gelb?
No, I would love to. The thought actually never occurred to me until you just said that. I was like, I should have him on the show. Like, why don't I? Like, we know like a million of the same people, and I don't know.
Really cool guy.
Yeah.
Hal Gelb was kind of on hiatus for a big chunk of when I was living there. When I first moved there, he was playing all the time. I'd always say Giant Sand, Giant Sand. And Michael Serpy had a Giant Sand tape that he used to play all the time that I was just kind of like, eh. I was all into like the Jesus Lizard at the time. And
exactly. It's not exactly into the same.
It doesn't sound like, so a lot of it was lost on me. And then it was really in the mid to late 90s, I started listening to, I saw Giant Sand play in a coffee shop. This place called Cafe Aroma in Tucson. It was right when he started playing again. His buddy Reiner died, and he stopped playing for a while because Reiner used to be in Giant Sand. He was a good friend of his, and it kind of blew his mind when he died. And also the two of the guys in the band were busy doing Calexico, and
Calexico kind of took off on their own for a bit. You know, they were all right.
That was a cool part about living in Tucson, was watching Calexico like find their voice, and I was there for every minute of that. That was amazing. Yeah. And I saw right before Chore of Enchantment, I saw him play at a coffee shop, and it's one of the top 5 shows I've ever seen in my life. And I went in there not being a huge fan and came out being a fan of all things Hal Gelb.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. But
so
taproom.
Well, it's an evocative image, right? Because it's sort of like when you think about, like, you know, the jukebox selections or something, you know, like those mix of things that gives you a lot of idea of the character of what's happening within the song. Which I think is great. I mean, that's fantastic. The don't you like there's like an Ezra Pound reference in it's been a while. On that one, is it Ancient Music that's got there's some serious literary catnip getting thrown out there.
Yeah. I was living in Yellowstone, and just this dude named Jim that we knew had, I think he was into Ezra Pound. And also I had read an interview with David Grubbs at one point, and he had said he was into Ezra Pound. And I'm like, I'm going to check out this Ezra Pound dude. And that was the first thing I came across, that poem, and I instantly memorized it. It just like jumped into my brain, and that was it. I always knew it. And just I think it was during a jam, that's one of the jam songs, I think, where we were doing a jam, and then I just started singing an Ezra Pound thing.
Yeah,
and,
works.
Yeah,
it's got that, you know, prosaic, literate but dusty charm, you know.
Right. Well, there's also there's like, you can't really go. I mean, Ezra Pound's a pretty controversial guy, and so there's do we do a song by this guy who supported Italian fascism during World War II? Or it was kind of a weird thing, and it's the whole. I mean, one of my favorite writers is Newt Hampson, and like the whole separating the artist from the artist's beliefs thing, and I had to do a lot of mulling that before we did it, and
I mean,
finally,
the power of the words, but it is something that any responsible artist is gonna come to mind, where you're like, well,
right. And also, Ezra Pound ripped it off from an old Scotch Rhoda, I think.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, it's from an old, like,
him then.
Yeah, it goes all the way back to like the 1300s. So really, I'm doing a cover of that, I guess.
Yeah, there you go. There you can just like if somebody's saying that they're doing a cover, which has happened. I'm not going to mention who did it. Of Black Betty, they're not doing a Ram Jam cover. They're doing a Lead Belly cover, where it's like. But we're just gonna whistle past the graveyard about Ram Jam, huh? Okay.
Right.
Whatever. It's whatever gets you through the night, as this other song goes. Okay, yeah. So talk to me about that time period between Logan and El Camino, because it was a little quicker for there. Of course, El Camino, that's the one with rope. That's one of my favorite tunes by y'all. It's got just visually, it's very bright. Like the art is kind of like a bit, well, certainly a contrast to the last one, which is very muted Dust Bowl looking stuff. Was there a specific mindset behind having that one be like just so evocatively bright color wise album art?
Do you remember Nina from the PRF forum?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, she did that. She did the cover for that.
Did she really? I did not know that.
Yeah, and that her and Trey were pretty tight, and I guess Trey really wanted to use that artwork for it. And I don't do art. I don't do visual art like in any way, shape, or form. I guess words on a notebook are that's the best I can do.
Enough. It's enough. You have to do everything. Throw the broom, scoop up afterwards, right?
Right. And so, yeah, she's the one who did it. That was her thing. Her photography. And Trey had seen it and really wanted it to be the album cover.
And that was you did that one electrical, I believe, if I remember correctly, right?
We did, yeah. That was a weird time for us because we had this practice space, the music lab in South Austin. We had a lockout that was just a magical place, and we would just spend hours in there. And we moved practice spaces to a spot in East Austin that just sucked. And so we were kind of prepping for this new album, and it was a strange place to prep for that album. We did all right. I mean, if I could go back and record El Camino again, I would. I totally would.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Do you feel like that vibe kind of informed the performance?
No. Well, I think we recorded with Steve Albini for that one.
Yeah, he's okay.
He is okay.
He's all right.
And I think he really helped bring out things that we were lacking when we came in. First of all, we like to go into the studio not quite knowing what we're doing, but like having like a vague roadmap, but letting like the chips fall where they may when we get in there. Steve kind of was kind of like, why would you do that here?
Yeah, not necessarily his vibe. Sure. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. He like expects bands coming in really tight, knowing what they're doing, and we're like, well, that's just how we do it. I mean, I can't explain to you. I think once he understood that, like, I don't know. No, he was, first of all, I cherish the time I spent recording that album. Absolutely cherish it because I went into that studio. First of all, I mean, I've been listening to Big Black since I was like 16 years old,
Sure.
and was a huge Shellac fan, and for about 10 minutes, I was just like, what the fuck? Who the fuck do we think we are? And and then after 10 minutes, he becomes a dude, and and we're just doing a thing, and
It's this guy,
but one really cool thing that happened was we were supposed to record in Studio B, and the air conditioning was out in Studio B. And so he was like, "You guys just want to do Studio A? Fuck it. We have it for the same price. The air conditioning works in there." And so we got Studio A for the price of Studio B. So that was kind of cool. And I would say the most amazing part of that experience for me was when I went down to record the vocal tracks. It was about 10 or 11 in the morning, and it was just me and Steve. And I think Steve picked up on me like not being the most confident guy in the world, and just kind of being new at vocals and everything.
Yeah.
And he would just kind of he really treated me with kid gloves. It was lovely. He would be like, "You all right there, Chief?" And I'd be like, you think you did all right there? And I'd be like, "Yeah, great." And he'd be like, "Let's do another one." It was very generous, very generous.
I know that the Toshi version of that is it was pretty good, which is like, no, it wasn't. Do it over again.
Yeah.
That's okay.
But I think it was when we were recording Great White Vacation, like right after I did the lyrics, or right after I did the words, he like cut the tape and just went, "Well bowled, sir, well bowled." I was just like, "Thank you."
Nice.
But that was my favorite part of that experience, doing the vocals. Just me and Steve down there.
I mean, so here in the last days in Robe, I feel like the first two songs in there, I think that's two of the more iconic songs within the catalog of the band, almost like mission statement songs as far as I'm concerned. Do you feel that's the case? Like, do you feel like those are important songs in the pantheon of the band, or do you even think about any of that kind of thing, or what? Because I mean,
well, the weird thing about Here in the Last Days is we came in. That was one of the songs that we came into the studio with, like, not fully formed. We didn't know if it was going to become a song or not. And there was an extra verse to that song that I thought was really important to the song that got vetoed, and just because we didn't expect it to become the first song on the album,
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't think that. We thought this was going to be the thing that got cut.
Yeah.
And so we made it as short as possible. I mean, there's this whole other section of it, Here in the Last Days, and usury, subdivision, mindlessness, vice, and gadgetry, sweet shadow fall on me, that wasn't in the song, that should have been in the song. So every time I hear it, I think, like, that should have been there. And so that's one I would like to go back in and re-record, because it's missing things. It's missing an appendage,
To be here in the last days. Ignition ring. Yeah. Well, no, but it's so as a listener, to me, the way that it hits is sort of almost like the Stephen King book, Different Seasons, right? It's actually like, not short stories, not full-length books. They're kind of like little novellas.
Mm-hmm.
Each one of them, we all know Stephen King can, if he wants to write, he can keep writing, and it's generally very compelling, but there's almost something to be said for the succinct nature of these tales. And to me, it kind of hits on that same way with that song. It's like, it feels like there could be more, but it almost, if anything, it's going to invite you to like, let's check back in with that song. When you get to the end of it. What's that?
What's the name of that book?
Oh, Different Seasons. It's the one that's got The Body, which became Stand By Me, and
okay.
Well, in the book it's Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption, but they made a movie about that one as well. And then there's a pretty good novella called At People in there as well that I know they made a movie of it. I heard it's freaking terrible, so I'm never going to watch it. But but yeah, great. You know, a novella where a novel would have been perfectly fine for all of those. But like it's almost like the restraint shown seemed baked into the process.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my long way of saying that I think that's a good song. So that's good. But
Rope. I should say Rope is another song where the music is purely Trey. That's a straight up Trey Pool song, and I pilfered the words from an older song of mine and put them on top of it. And that's a straight up Trey song.
Well, and you bring up something there with I can't remember who I was talking to, but just taking something that, you know, phrase or lyric that didn't quite hit maybe where you wanted it to, or you know, by nature of the arrangement or whatever, and repurposing that and reusing it in a different way, or putting it in a different context, you know, like you know, it's a llama in the jungle versus a llama in the desert kind of situation. To use a weird oblique strategy, but
that's a good analogy, actually.
and certain phrases pop differently when their surroundings change. So is that something that, as someone that's, you know, lyrically minded, that's thinking about the words, do you ever have that kind of like, that didn't end up sitting in that song the way that I thought it was gonna, but if I put it over here, hey, maybe that'll do what I want it to do, or maybe that'll suit it better.
Absolutely, and a lot of it is, first of all, a lot of songs that are Gary songs existed as different, like lyrically existed as different songs, and were Arizona songs. So and they were supposed to be Arizona songs. So I'm taking them and like putting them into Texas songs.
Yeah,
so,
you're out of the well, right? So
yeah. And so I would love to do an album of how the songs were originally written. And they would be very different. A lot of them would be very different songs. You know, something like 905 off of Chub was originally called Eulogy, and it's got a very different feel, very different cadence to it, and I would love to see that happen. You know, I think that's something that I would like the Gary to do, is to revisit the original versions of those songs, and it would be wildly different with the same lyrics, but I think it's worth doing. I don't know.
Why not? I mean, I think you got you know, the folks that are going to be into it would be curious to hear that. You know, you don't have to. You know, look, when you're when you're of a certain age, you don't have to worry about universal appeal for something. You just do the appeal for the folks that's for. That's totally fine.
Yeah, there's like 200 or 300 people who give a shit about what we do, and that's enough. That is enough for me.
Yeah. So before we move on from El Camino, any other thoughts on any of the rest of that? I mean, that's all fantastic, but I just want to make sure that I don't dash forward too quickly.
El Camino, let's see. A While, the song A While was a song that was kind of written for my ex-wife, and I think what I really wanted her to know in that song was what I'm doing here, like this music thing, really means a lot to me, and it puts me in a very present place, and I'll be with you in a while. And I think I did that to the point of overkill, and that it became a very sad song after we split, and to the point where I told the guys, I can't play this song anymore. I can't do this anymore. And but you know, that song was written specifically for her. For and maybe that song existed for selfish reasons. I don't know. But the song "Great White Vacation" was written in Mesquite, Nevada, while I was working in Bryce Canyon.
Oh, yeah. I was trying to think where Mesquite was, and it was not coming to mind at all. But I don't have a Nevada map in front of me, so thank you for pointing.
It's okay. You've got what I forget what the interstate is that goes along like the Wasatch Front and like down southern Utah, and it's a 95. I forget what it is.
But I think it's one of the 90s. I can't remember exactly which one though.
Yeah. But it goes through the Arizona Strip, or the corner of the Arizona Strip that goes.
Yeah, it kind of cuts down. Okay, I know the one you're talking about. Yep. Okay, got it.
And then it hits Nevada, right at Mesquite, Nevada, right on the border. And that's where all the Jack Mormons go to gamble, or just Mormons in general go to gamble. And I was working in, I was looking to sin a little when I was living in Utah, and
Sure.
went down to eat. And I brought my, I had a Fostex 4-track that took batteries at the time, and brought that and an acoustic guitar. And after I had, rule number 1, always get the hotel first when you're looking. When you're looking to go in, get the hotel first. And so, like, I went and checked in, dumped my stuff in there, went and gambled my entire paycheck, and drank my entire paycheck, and did the walk of shame back to my room and wrote Great White Vacation. So that's where that, yeah. And then I recorded it with the Gary years later.
Yeah. No, that's a good pull well there.
And then the next song, Expiration, there are several different versions of that.
There's a couple of them, yeah. So
yeah, there's Expiration 1 on Chub. There's Expiration that existed before Chub on one of the tapes that I used to give to my friends back in the late 90s. There's I've done some expirations just for myself, and it's just like this thing that I it's just this thing I check in with myself every few years with that song and write different versions of it. So there may be expirations 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 down the line. I don't know.
hey, just as many there are Fast and Furious. Curiosity? I don't know what a plural if would be. So then, let's walk forward to Remains. So, and again, not a long period of time between records there either. It's a year and a half, something along those lines between release. Some notable Gary jams on there. You know, you got Valhalla, you got Fairweatherer, Call the Dogs, great closing song. Definitely not bright colors for that album cover. A little more bleak and dire.
Yeah.
What is the cover on of Anyway?
I think that's Ocean City. It's Katrina. Does that the original cover we were going to do of Galveston and during one of the hurricanes that year, or no, not Galveston. Was it? I forget which hurricane we were originally going to do. It was the year, I think it was 2005, where there were hurricanes coming in one after the other along the Gulf Coast, and Trey's uncle died in one of them. He died in Ike. That was the one we were going to do a picture of Hurricane Ike on the Galveston coast, and we're told we couldn't do it due to copyright reasons. But Trey's uncle died. He was the first documented death on that in that hurricane, because Trey's from Galveston. His mom is from Galveston, and his uncle was from Galveston, and they were like Galveston old schoolers. And his uncle was one of those people who said, "I don't care what storm comes through. I don't care how bad it is. I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to, Well, he did that, and then the hurricane started coming in. He was like, "Oh shit, I need to get off this island." And about midway down the causeway, his truck got blown off into the into the water, and so he passed. And I don't know. Me and Trey are very weather informed. The Gary is very weather informed.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this about Trey. He does hail repair for a living.
Yeah, I think I knew and forgot it, but that does.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Which was a big reason why we recorded in electrical that year, was because we had a really incredible hail year the year before, where Trey made a lot of money doing hail repair, and we're like, fuck it, let's go record at Electrical Audio.
Yeah, it's bad for everyone's buildings, but really good for the Gary, as it turns out.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hey man, it's the untold tales that people come to this show for, so it's all right.
But we had originally planned for that to be the cover, and then it got shot down due to copyright issues, and we did a picture. I think it was a picture of Ocean Springs during Katrina. That's on the cover. Ocean Springs, Mississippi.
Yeah, and it, I mean, no matter which disaster it is, it gets the point across that it's like, oh, that's something rough just happened pretty recently here. And again, with the evocative novella style title Remains, you can take that a few ways, but that
was a Paul Warner joint. He's the one who came up with that. I think it's a great album title. I'm glad it was called that.
Absolutely, no, totally agreed. So let's spend a little time on this one here. So talk to me about Valhalla, the Kickoff song. Did you know that one was? Hey, this is definitely gonna be a first song joint, or
no, not at all. That's one of those going in with it, not quite formed, and it becoming the Kickoff thing. There's a Southern Utah version of Valhalla, and then there's a Texas update, and I don't want to go into it. Yeah, it's a weird thing that involves a bunch of people where I'd rather not talk about what exactly that song.
Yeah, you don't know anybody.
It was just some people who got together and had a really good time to the point where they destroyed themselves and destroyed their relationships. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
Fill in the blanks. Figure it out. So how about Fair Weather? To me, that's a iconic song in the pantheon. That seems like a kind of like a, if someone's doing like a try before you buy, you recommend it to a friend. Hey, if you like this, let me know, and then I'll give you a couple other ones to check out afterwards. Do you feel that way? Like, as the writer, do you feel like that's that one kind of does something kind of special?
No, not at all. It kind of comes from a sore spot, and it happened kind of as it's kind of related to Valhalla and the group of people who were together, and after they separated, and I will say this, like I've always been kind of a good time Charlie when I'm drunk, and something that when it's really rolling, people want to be around, and when that's gone, people don't want to be around me at all. So I think that's what that song was about, and it's not exclusive to that situation, but it was. It's just about fair weather friends. We've all had them, and where they want to be around you when you're at your high point, and when you need them, they're gone.
Yeah, it's good. It's all aces when it's a party. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, exactly.
You got a nostalgic for the present. That's a good one. That's that's an all-timer title for the age as well.
Paul Auster. I got it from Paul Auster from I forget which book of his it was. It might have been Moon Palace or something. It was just a line in the book, and I don't claim to have any original ideas. I mean, I just like everyone else, I pick it apart from where I learn it and apply it to my life as I need it. You know?
Well, but it's it's not a borrow. It's an interpretation. It's a set. It's a window dressing. It's a set dressing. It's doesn't come across like that. And I think there's plenty of folks that have been lionized in many different art forms that are complete cultural magpies and would be the first ones to cop to it. And it's sort of all about the presentation as much as anything else.
Right. Well, I think I have had a very difficult time being present through most of my life, and I'm always worrying about something that happened to me or worrying about something that's about to happen to me. And
think it's getting better over time, or
it is. It absolutely is. As much as a fad as this mindfulness thing is, or even like the apps and all that, it's so important right now for people to be able to just shuck off everything that's plaguing them, and just being able to have a moment with themselves at that moment, and however you do it, it's good. Whatever it takes to do that, it's good. And I'm really a proponent of meditation, and it's helped me tremendously, just tremendously. And I've done it in different forms all my life, or not all my life, but say from like age 18, 19 up to now. But I've just learned to discipline it recently, and it's useful. It's a very useful tool. So yeah, that's what all that's about. Nostalgic for the present is me just hankering to be me now. Just be in the present.
It's a constant battle for some of us, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say most of us. I mean, with all the distractions we have coming at us all the time.
Yeah, it's almost like every aspect of society and culture is trying to push it the other way because there's money to be made on it. Whether it's nostalgia for the past, or whether it's fear of missing out, or whatever it happens to be. It's sometimes it's very important just to, even if it's not the best time in the world, to sit with yourself and be okay with that, and just be like, I am feeling this way right now, and this is a thing that is happening right now, which is a time that I'm living in.
Yeah.
Whew, that's some Deepak Chopra right there. Okay, so
Deepak Chopra.
Well, so how about the evidence? And again, I want to kind of honor as much of the songs we can get to here. There's that's the one. It's got the cello, right? It's I forget was it Henna?
Henna Chow, yeah.
Which I think y'all played that in Oakland, if I remember right.
Yeah, played in Oakland. That was around when Remains came out, I guess, and Henna came out with us. She was a good friend of mine for a few years, and I haven't talked to her in quite some time, but fair weatherer. I don't know. No, that's shitty. I hope she doesn't watch this.
Well, it's an excuse to reconnect. That's how it looks. It's an invitation.
No, what happened? Her and her husband got divorced, and I was in a band with her husband. It's still, well, no, her husband moved to New Zealand, ex-husband. I'm in this band called Baby Robots that her ex-husband was in, and I think she was just kind of like, don't associate with those people. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm in a band with these people, and it just got weird, and I haven't talked to her in quite some time, and that's a shame because I love her, and she's just an amazing, talented person.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah. She does Church of the Friendly Ghost out here. It's experimental music. I don't know if they're doing it on a weekly thing again or not, but she does that, and she plays. She does she does a thing called Aux, AUX. I would recommend you go to that. And yeah, I will always admire her. Always. Anything she does, I will always admire her.
I feel like it'd be disingenuous to move on without talking a little more about Call the Dogs, because we talk about evocative imagery in Gary songs. I think that's just the idea alone of the Call the Dogs, Piss on the Fire is just such a, well, first of all, great way to close a record, right? Because you're talking about closing off other experiences, but it brings to mind almost, you can take it a Cormac McCarthy direction if you want, but it definitely leaves it open to interpretation for quite a few things. What was the thought process on that one, and how did that one come to pass?
My uncle David, who I was named after, he's the other Dave Norwood. He used to work for J. Frank Dobie, who was a writer from here. And this was in the early 60s. And as the crow flies right now, I'm about 2 miles from Dobie's ranch where Call the Dogs happened. Dobie's ranch is now used as or his property is now used as a writer in residence area for the University of Texas. But my uncle David, and it was the year before J. Frank Dobie died. Uncle David had done some work for him, and Dobie said, "Would you help me come and winterize my property, because there's a big front coming in soon. We're having a big norther, and I can't do this by myself." He was old, and my uncle was like, "Fuck yeah, yes sirree," because he was a big fan of his. My uncle's a literary groupie, and so they went out there, and they went and covered the pipes and did whatever they had to do to winterize that whole thing, and there's a fireplace there, and so Dobie was like, let's just, I remember my uncle said they must give him, there must be a thing to give writers bourbon, because the walls were just lined with bourbon, everywhere, all over, and so Dobie was like, "Do you want to have some drinks?" And my uncle, who was in his early 20s at the time, he had just come back from Bay of Pigs. He was in the Navy. And he was like, "Sure." And they went back there, and they drank whiskey. They got shitty. And at one point they were sitting by the fire, and Dobie kicked up his legs on my uncle and said, "Norwood, before all's said and done, don't forget to call the dogs and piss on the fire." And
wow.
That's what,
I didn't know it was a quote. that almost seems obvious in retrospect, but that's pretty astounding. I like that.
To be able to see this.
Hey, like that. All right. Okay. There it is.
J. Frank Dobie wrote to my uncle David back in 1963 for doing some work for him. And if anyone wants to take this and do a screenshot or whatever, it's really cool.
Oh,
so,
man. Awesome. Yeah, I'm not gonna. It'll take me a while to read off the whole thing, but that's killer. Yeah, that's beautiful. I love it. I could have taken. I could have taken a screenshot. Sure, I did not take a screenshot though, so I'll have to. We'll do that in post. We'll fix it in post.
Okay, so I just want to put this out there for the Dobie Fellowships that UT is doing. If anyone wants to invite me out there to write songs for 6 months,
you'll do it.
Do it.
you will volunteer for that duty gladly. If nominated, you will run. If elected, you will serve.
Yes.
So we gotta move on. Any other thoughts for Remains? For nothing we already covered.
No, other than we did that Lungfish song, and I've been a Lungfish fan for as long as, since I was like, I guess 91 was when I first heard Necklace of Heads, and I've always loved that band. I asked Daniel Higgs beforehand if I could do that song, and he was down here playing a solo show, and he was very nice about it, and yeah, I'm glad to have been able to do a Lungfish song. So.
What's the cut of that dude's jib? Like, it seems like that could go a couple different directions with that fella. Like, it seems like he could be a total wild card, or it could be just really nice fella. What was your take on him?
I've met him twice.
Yeah,
and the first time was lovely, and the second time was a little edgy. So it's true. It is a wild card, I think.
Hey, roll the dice, baby. Let's go.
Mm-hmm. But I love him, and love everything he's done, and everything he continues to do.
Talk about a dude with his own voice.
Mm-hmm.
In all aspects of all things, like all respect, for sure. Yeah. Okay, so you got some time. You got a couple more years than that. You got Farewell, Foolish Objects. So what's happening between those time periods, the run up for that record? Like where's the band at? At this point, you've got a good catalog behind you. You know what you can do. You know what you do well. You're expanding out this way. You're moving stuff over that way. Talk to me about Farewell, Foolish Objects.
Well, first of all, we went to Europe right after.
Yes.
Right after Remains, or actually right before, just like a couple of weeks before Remains came out, we went to Europe, and then that was an amazing experience. And then we had a couple of years or a year of writing a new album or whatever, and I should say we recorded Remains with Matthew Barnhart, and he's a peach, and we love him. And
forgot to mention that. Yeah.
And he talk about a guy who just makes a room feel good,
Yeah.
And we did that Europe tour. We also did a little stint with Mission to Burma, and we did, what else went on? It seems like a whole bunch of shit was happening at that point. That's when things really started cooking for us. And then we went in with Chico Jones again and recorded Farewell, Foolish Objects. And I really like that album. My favorite album we've ever done is Logan. My second favorite is Farewell, Foolish Objects.
Do you think that? Did you feel like you had it kind of figured out, like what the band can do, especially with playing all these different shows in these different areas, and with these bigger bands, seeing what connects, what doesn't. Did you feel like you had like a pretty authoritative response? I think second time I've used that in this show, to those experiences, or was it just more?
Not really. As soon as we think we're someone, it's just like everything goes dead. Like as soon as we think we get all big for our britches, and then like suddenly like it's just like, oh, no one gives a shit. All right. So
It's easy. Yeah, you can lose a sense of scope and scale sometimes when you have stuff going on where it's like, oh wow, this is the world. Nope, sure isn't.
yeah. So I think we had reached a point of like big for our britches, and then like, it's getting kind of quiet, and then we recorded Farewell Foolish Objects. That album, I've never liked that album title. It hurts my tongue to say it, and but I do like that album a lot. I think it's one of our best sounding albums. I think it's the most adventurous I ever got with my voice, and I don't know. I just think it flows well. I like that album.
Some good lines too. Some stuff. I mean, like that's the one's got the it kind of starts off at, you think it's going to be one thing, and then it kind of gives you a slap upside the face, right. Your expectations, which is always a big fan of that. AKA the Black Dog, the poster children Black Dog. Up on Black Dog. There's let's give each other our maps of madness. That's a solid one. That's a solid line.
I actually didn't one I solidly wrote. I didn't rip that one off. No, that Let's Cut a Path existed in a wildly different form years before that, and I would like to record that song the way it originally happened at some point. But I do like what it became later on.
Yeah, because it's something where you could see it being in a more stripped down arrangement, kind of to take on like a different tone, right? Sort of like, certain songs may be like the most jubilant, joyful things in the world, something like flipping a A minor instead of a A major.
Right. Yeah.
Totally different. It would be interesting to hear that more stripped down, but I think it works with the you get the crazy wall of distortion, not distortion, but the presence hitting as part of the arrangement, and to not have that, and you have to hit the emotional cues somewhere other way. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people can just fill in the blanks themselves, the listener. Or at least that's what I think anyone that's ever tried to play an acoustic song of a big rock number probably thinks of themselves.
Well, that was another song that we went into the studio not knowing entirely how that was going to happen, and it just happened right. So that me and Trey and Paul just had a really good chemistry. Around that time was when Paul I really relied on Paul a lot to during the recording process to tell me what was right and what was wrong. Am I warbling off note? Am I doing something ridiculous? He was always a really good filter for me, and that at that session, that was the point. I think, first of all, we were asking a lot of Paul. We were asking, he was not a drummer.
Yeah.
I loved how he played drums, but that wasn't his thing, really. I think that was another thing. We just thought the Gary was going to be something we did for a couple of years, and that was it. So he ends up in this band playing drums for 8 years when drums, that's not his primary instrument.
He's a guitar and singer, basically. He's a front man.
Totally. Deal. And he stuck with it for a really long time. And we knew that he was getting to the point of he was about having enough, and so he wasn't really around for that session much, and also we went to Europe around that time again, and at that time that was weird because I wasn't drinking and they were, so I just felt like a chaperone the whole time, and
right, as you're the D, yeah.
But it was amazing. It was an amazing time. I love touring Europe so much. If anyone out there needs me to go tour Europe with them, I will do it. I will drop everything and we'll do it. But yeah, at the time, things were kind of ebbing, and then by 2016, Paul was done with it, and And then we were like, what do we do with this? Do we shut it down? We decided, like, let's just call it. And then we called it. And then our friend Anthony came into the picture. He was in a band called Blue Kabuki and had played in Trey's wife had played in a band called Killdeer for a while. They were like our sister band for a long time. We'd play a bunch of shows with them. And Mary is amazing. She's an amazing musician. I wish she was still playing music. Just an amazing musician, amazing guitar player, just has her own voice. And she was in Killdeer, and then they kind of transformed into a band called X Cousins, and Anthony played in X Cousins. And then when X Cousins dissolved, I guess he said, hey, I'll play in the Gary. And so Trey was like, hey, we got a drummer. Let's keep doing this. So we kept doing it.
Yeah. Well, and it's, it was a pleasant surprise to see guys keep going, because I think the expectation when you have a run and you have and honestly, that Farewell Foolish Objects is a great record, but it almost seems like that'd be a fine capstone to a pretty solid run.
I thought that too. Yeah.
That'd be Indian on top. There's no there's no indulgent concept records or regrettable ska outings or anything,
Right. Believe me, Conan, I thought that too. But and also I play music in other bands. I'm in Baby Robots, Spoils. I'm always playing shit somewhere. So I'm not hurting to play music, and I'm not necessarily hankering to sing all the time. I love being able to just hang back and play bass.
Yeah.
And so it was weird for me to say, okay, let's keep doing this. But I really enjoyed the pace that we were doing it before. And okay, first of all, we've had a lot of shit coming at us for a few years since 2016. Trey had cancer twice over, and Anthony's wife had cancer, and we've just, there's just been a bunch of shit coming out of it, career-wise, and so we're just kind of moving against the storm right now, and so that's a big reason why we're not moving at the rate we used to move at, because we've just got a lot coming at us, and have had a lot coming at us for the last few years. That said, there are a lot of songs that exist that haven't been played yet. So I would imagine at some point we're going to record a new album. So,
well, that's up.
I'm sorry.
I said that's lovely news, and that also reminds me that, hey, maybe we should talk about the one that just came out and speak a little bit to that one, because, man, not a lot of bands can handle a 7-year break and changing out a core member. Now I know for a fact that he's not like you got him last week, it's been playing with you for a while, but changing a core component of a power trio, that's dangerous. That can go a lot of ways.
Right.
So the most immediate difference would be that Anthony is very much seems more like a traditional drummer, as opposed to the don't quite understand it stuff Paul Warner was up to, which is key to his unique style.
Drummers would always be like, what the fuck's going on with your drummer? Like Paul Warner always had drummers scratching their heads. Like what? Why are you doing that? Hey,
Well, and it ended up it added an element of kind of unexpectedness to the overall presentation, though, and it's almost more interesting the fact that you got, both you guys are kind of planted, right? You're in the more the aux, all of the Who thing, except for also vocals, and then you got Trey, who's not exactly doing Pete Townsend. He's kind of root down as well, and then you
Right.
have Paul Warner doing this Paul Warner stuff where it's like, what that guy? What's happening?
Yeah.
All the more crazy when you already know Paul Warner from, being the front man of a band, where it's
Right.
like, when did you? Okay, cool. I mean, I don't understand what's happening there, but it sounds great. So that's we're gonna go with it. We're gonna run with it. But I guess what I'm driving at with this is different drumming style. Different style drummer. Does it change how the songs come together? Does it change how this come to pass? Really? I mean, does it feel new again? Does it feel like same but different?
Yeah, it does feel new again. And okay, first of all, I've always written songs in 3, 5s, and 7s, and there's a lot of that throughout the Garys discography up to the new one, so Anthony's a pretty 4/4 kind of guy, and Trey has always been kind of a 4/4 kind of guy who's had to deal with me and Paul doing 3, 5, 7s, and it's always just been him going, "You motherfuckers, why can't you just play a fucking rock song?"
Yeah, I'm with you.
and so now it's me going, "You motherfuckers, why can't you play in 3, 5s, and 7s?" Because I'm voted at this point. So.
Now you're in the 33% now, yeah, 66%. Yeah. Well, but it strikes me that anybody that's a fan of the band will immediately be into Fallow. I mean, I think it's something, and I think it stands on its own as well. Like, it's something where if you like what you hear, then like, hey, there's a whole discography to dig into. And if you don't mind, let's just, while we're talking, let's just hit all 6 of them, and just, you can tell me a little bit about each one, a little, whether it be lyrics, arrangement, free association, memories, whatever.
Right.
We've been kind of doing that already, but let's just hit all of these, because this is the new one, and we gotta move some units here, Dave. I don't know if you're familiar, but
we need to move some units. We didn't put this record out ourselves. We need to move some units.
So then let's start. So Fallow, and of course, thegary.com. Fallow is the name of the record. Ordinary People is the first song.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me a little about Ordinary People?
Yeah, that song. I don't know if it was. I can't remember exactly when the lyrics were written, but it's kind of about this guy Mark that I knew back when I worked at Bryce Canyon, and he was from Las Vegas, and he had just gotten into all sorts of trouble. He used to work for a casino, and he walked out. One time he was transferring money from one part of the casino to the other, like $5,000. I think he said it wasn't a whole lot, but it was a lot to him at the time. And he's just like, "I'm just going to keep on walking. I'm going to walk right out into the parking lot with this, and I'm going to keep on going. I'm going to go to my car with this, and I'm going to start a new life with this." And anyway, he ended up in jail for a long time, and he after he got out of jail, he ended up getting a job at Bryce Canyon, and that's where me and him met. And
oh wow!
He had a bad gambling problem, and I had a bad drinking problem, and the both of us just kind of hit it off that summer, and we would just sit there and like, why can't we just do what regular fucking people do? Why can't we just do it? Like, what's stopping us? Like, what is this diversion? What, like, we would just like sit there on the porch of our employee dorms and just try and figure it out. Like, why do we just fuck up and fuck up and fuck up? And we just could never figure it out. And I think that was the genesis of that song. Like, how do regular people do it? How do regular people just not stay up all night and gamble and drink and fuck up and wake up with the sun and live ordinary lives? And that's what that song is about.
Yeah, man. That's I think of, I mean, it's impossible for me not to think of Repo Man, but I mean that as a compliment. Where I just think, I think of that brilliant.
That movie.
What's that?
I've never seen Repo Man for all the punk references, like in my teens and everything.
Oh, you got it's well, all right. So the special effects do not hold up, but the movie holds up. Even just the one of those movies that when you end it, it's like, huh, that is not how I expected that to end. But but it is a wild ride, and it's I'm not going to say it's underrated, but it's rated accurately. It's cultural importance. You should watch it. It'd be a good watch. I'd be interested in seeing what your take as a grown ass man watching Repo Man for the first time would be.
I am a grown ass man, and I will watch it soon.
I'm reminded of getting Brendan Canty's take on Back to the Future in the year 2018. When was it that Misthetics came through? And even Joe Lally was like, "You've never seen Back to the Future?"
Oh, dude. Hey, do you want to hear a Brendan Canty and Joe Lally story?
All the time, always, yes.
Okay. I saw the Mesthetics play last time they were here. Wasn't a huge turnout, you know. There may be like 30 or 40 people there, but Brendan Canty's son goes to school here at UT, and he brought all his friends, and he plays in a band here, and like they're just like some band, you know, some band you would expect a 18-year-old dude to play in, and you know,
right.
Brought all his bandmates. Like, dude, my dad's in Fugazi. He's playing, you know, like what an amazing thing. Like to be like, dude, my dad's in Fugazi.
Is in Fugazi. Yeah, that is
but there wasn't a big turnout, so it ended up like me and Brendan and his kids just hanging out and
that's awesome.
and Joe too. I had amazing conversations with Joe, and I'm a big fan of Joe's solo album. So I was like, why don't you keep doing that? And he's like, I just feel like I'm impressing everyone, you know. Like, I think I just want to bring more joy than all that depressing shit I was doing. And it was just an amazing night. An amazing night with Mesthetics.
That's lovely.
Before the pandemic happened.
Loved it. Yeah, of course, pandemic. Yeah. So, Info's second song. Of course, that one came out as a single in November as well. Tell me a little about Info. Got a video. The fact you have a video for it, which we are aware of, and is good.
We had nothing to do with that video. John, who put that out, his sister did it, and we just don't do videos. We don't do videos. That was just some visuals for.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like relax your mind, or you know, I'm trying to think of like what are these compilations.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool. I mean, me and Trey are very connected to the Texas coast, so I think that was kind of like cool. You know, sure, why not? There was a lot of Texas coast imagery on it and everything. I don't think it necessarily said anything about the band, but we had nothing to do with that. So that's all I can say about the video. It's like I thought John's sister did some really cool imagery, but it doesn't necessarily represent who we are or anything.
Not like a mission statement for the song or the record of the band or anything along those lines. Fair enough. Well, what about the song itself? Can you tell us a little about the song?
Yeah, I think I just spent a long time online at one point one day and had something to say about it. I think whenever we remember that we're supposed to check our email about something, or for whatever reason we get online, we were diverted, and then we're diverted, and then we're diverted, and then we end up on there way longer than we think we're going to be, and then we end up devoting a big chunk of our day to it, and that's what that song's about. You just the blighted river in that song is the internet, you know, wasted all away. Guess what I did today? Sit beside a blighted river, more a taker than a giver. That's all we do when we're consumers. Every time we get on there and we think we're just going to check our email and something takes check our whatever, and something takes our attention and then takes it elsewhere and elsewhere and elsewhere and elsewhere. That's the blighted river. And it's just a shame. It's just a shame that's where we are as people right now. And I hope we can do better.
Yeah. I mean, it's, like what's the old saying? If you're not paying for the product, you are the product. And there's
absolutely.
there's a lot of people making money on it the way it is. So.
Lots of people making money on our attention. Absolutely. Yeah. What's that Mary Oliver quote? The poet Mary Oliver. The first step to attention is devotion. Or no, the first step to devotion is attention. I'm sorry, Conan, I've had a drink or two at this point.
I was gonna say, you could just say strike that, reverse it, and then you'd be sorted. Yeah. It's still a beautiful sentiment. So third song, Fallow Fields, not exactly a title track, but title track-ish, title related.
I think it goes back to the internet. Just all the time we put into other people's time, other people's profits. And greetings from the fallow field, from the uncollected yield. What grows over unkempt soil, weedy thickets of turmoil. I don't know. I think it's closely related to info. Where we put our interests, and how other people exploit it, and when we think we're putting it in a sound place, when in fact we're putting it in a place that can be exploited and can work in our worst interests. Yeah,
I mean they do seem like set pieces together, those two songs. So it seems like there's there's a affinity between the two. If that not unified in sound, certainly in purpose and and material.
And both those songs I think are very related to Damn Machines off of Chub. If I were to lump songs together, those two songs would go with Damn Machines.
Yeah, musical callback in a way.
I think with the lack of affect and effect in our catalog or whatever, like, I should hope the songs are somewhat evergreen. I mean,
yeah,
that where people can listen to Chub and not think it's not so removed from now.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like purposely ephemeral or tied to a time or anything. So
right, yeah.
And that's kind of I almost wish that the term Americana hadn't come to define a very specific style of music, because I always kind of like that in terms of like, to me, Creedence Clearwater Revival used to be Americana. It's a uniquely American band. From the bayous of El Cerrito.
Yeah, right.
And like, yeah.
I mean, the lack of, total reverb in their songs and stuff. Like Creedence is pretty. I mean, to me, they're pretty. I mean, they stand the test of time. I mean. So that's man, you need to talk to Trey about some Creedence.
I'm always.
That's what his dad is. His like Creedence is his religion. That's what Trey raised around.
Yeah,
until he found this, then he got kind of weird.
Radical Prostate.
Yeah. Oh, the song Radical Prostate.
Yeah. Yeah, we're still talking about
the. Trey. I mentioned it before. He had gone through some cancer shit.
Yeah.
Around 2000, when was it? 2017 or 18. he found out that he had prostate cancer, and that really put things on hold for a little while. And so there was that. I mean, we had just come off of Anthony's wife, Anne. She had just had breast cancer during her pregnancy. And so she somehow managed to, land clean on that, which was amazing.
Yeah.
And then we have Trey getting cancer, and which was just like, whoa, what the fuck? And so he had to do all that. And that took a few months. And oh no, we recorded Radical Prostate a few days before he went in for his cancer treatment. So he wanted to just do an instrumental of him going off a guitar, and like we didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then he ended up coming out on the other side of that pretty good, and then he got it again, and then there was that whole episode. So Trey's been through some shit, man. He has really been. I wish he would do podcast interviews. Trey won't do podcast interviews, but he won't do any interviews. But I wish he would talk about it, because he's really gone through a lot. He's going through a lot right now. Like, some shit has just happened that I'm not going to talk about because he has not given me the okay to talk about it. But he's just had so much coming at him, and it's amazing he still wants to play music.
Well, he's a resilient dude, and all respect for that. So that's yeah. I mean, there's tragedy is part of life, but sometimes you got to wonder why some people get a heap and helping of it, and others seem to skate right by. But that's
man. I mean, it's a man. I don't know if this is inappropriate, but I read what you wrote about your mom recently, and like, man, like it's not always something we can just like skid right by, I mean, it just hangs with us, and it's heavy shit, man. Like especially as we get older, and the people who are older than us start dying and everything, and we start having symptoms, and we get older too. It's heavy fucking shit.
It is indeed heavy fucking shit. I agree.
Sorry.
All you can do is keep moving forward. I mean, it's what about it? Like, I'm not hiding from it. It's something that I'm dealing with every day, and will continue to deal with every day.
Totally, yeah. It's one Gary song, right? If I could go to one little before we go elsewhere, is my dad died a couple of years ago, and I did not realize until he died that that's who I was like making songs and firing them to, Yeah. Like, I've been writing songs for him for so long to help him understand who I am.
Mm.
And after he died, I'm like, oh shit, who do I do this for now? And that's been I've been, for the last 2 years, that's been like, who do I write songs for now? It's been a really weird experience.
Yeah, that's heavy. And that's, unless you're incredibly self-reflective, that's not something you're probably thinking about when you're 20, like that's
right.
It's going to be more and more resonant as time goes on too. Well, look, we got 2 more songs on this. Let's see it through. We got Season Consume Me is next one. Can you tell me a little bit about that one?
Yeah, that's what that goes back to when I was living at the Grand Canyon during the winter of '98, I think it was. I did a season there, and I've always had a big problem with seasonal depression, and that's what that song's about. How you just bottom out, and then find, as soon as it comes around, you find a rope to hang on to and pull yourself out of it. So I think that's the.
I mean, especially, man, I'm thinking back to the COVID winter up here. It's like, oh, you already got seasonal affective disorder? Well, guess what? Here's an extra heap and layer for it.
Absolutely.
Congratulations, everybody.
Yeah.
And then, sorry, you close out Fallow with Unconfirmed, Undenied.
Mm-hmm. That's another Grand Canyon song. When I lived on the East Rim, there were these two people who lived in, there were three places where the people in the East Rim lived. There was the park employees, like at the Watchtower we were talking about earlier, people who worked there. There was the people who worked at the Babbitt store, and there was the people who worked at the Park Service. I think it was just, have you ever lived in a small place where you kind of do whatever you can with whatever you have, and you make friends with the most absurd people? That's what that song's about. Just me and the weird, absurd people I made friends with at the time.
Some of them stick with you. Some end up in songs.
Yeah.
Not everyone.
Some who stick with me are still with me.
So Fallow, folks can get that on the Gary Bandcamp. Act Your Age Records. I should mention that too.
Thank you.
It's great. It's awesome, man. It sounds like the Gary, and it's a nice thing. It was sort of you search for certain things like along the shoreline to look for what ships are coming up over the horizon. It was nice to see that flag flying, dude.
Thanks, Conan, and thanks for having me on here. And I don't do this often, but I did a podcast interview a couple of months ago, and it just went all kinds of wrong. And I'm glad that I could speak to someone who I know, and that was very helpful.
Well, I'm pleased to have you. Surprised, Frank, to have you on. Last thing. Canned questions, the only canned question I ever asked. Choose to interpret it however you like. But why do you do what you do?
Why do I do what I do? Because it's the only thing I know how to do. I've been doing it since I was like 15 years old. It's just the thing that it's the only thing I know how to do. I jump from job to job. I rarely work a job more than 2 or 3 years, and it's mostly to support the music thing, which is the only thing I know how to do. So that's why I do what I do.
Well, I think that's beautiful, and I'm glad that you do it, man. Appreciate it. And I'm stoked to hear that this isn't just a capstone. This is This is the next chapter. There's more Gary coming, and there's light on the horizon, and that's a beautiful thing.
Yes, sir.
Dave, thank you so much, man.
Thanks, Conan. I appreciate you having me.
Until next time.
Yes, sir. Come see me.
I will. I'll hold you to it. All right, there he goes. Dave Norwood, the Gary. What a cool guy. That guy's awesome. Incredibly thoughtful. Very, very interesting dude. I appreciate him getting into the spirit of going to everything with all the different songs and stuff. He's very forthcoming in that way.
Fair weatherer on the sidelines of my airing. This view is curious. Fair weatherer, don't stray. Too much for casual conversation. Do I tread the road unsoundly? That's what I did today. Sit beside a blighted river, more a taker than a giver, searching for a means in a hall of busy screens, getting softer in my station, overfed on information. Serve as a reminder that screen is but a blinder to divert my small attention, to poke holes in my retention, not a credit to my knowing, but a passive overflowing. The information may be new, but it's only passing through. The information may be new, but it's only passing through. The information may be new, but it's only passing through.
Info. That's the Gary. That's off FALLOW. That's new. You can get that Actor-Age Records, thegary.com, Gary Bandcamp. What is it? I think it's the Gary Bandcamp. Thegary.com /music. Yeah, there you go. I asked him about the all about the artwork. I didn't even talk about the artwork on that one. It's evocative as well. Well. Thanks so much for listening. This has been another episode of Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal.
Is this thing on?
This show airs on Radio Nope. Streamed live Thursdays, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific. Radio Nope, say yes to Nope. Archives at ProtonicReversal.com. Always free, no ads, no sponsors, no kidding. I'd like to thank Dave Norwood for being on the show. I'm surprised it took me that long to have him on, frankly, but it's great. I think we got into a lot of the good stuff. So go get that record. Oh, if you like the show, want episodes of it sooner, Patreon.com/ProtonicReversal. $1 a month will get you there.
Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea.
This is episode 256 of the seemingly
Within the sound of my voice.
endless and undefeated Protonic Reversal. Thanks so much for listening to it, sharing the shows around.
Got 50,000 watts of power.
Like, subscribe, reviews. It all seems totally silly, but it matters and helps people find the show. So thank you. And thank you for listening to it.
The air.
I got a bunch of stuff coming up. I'm exhausted. I'm not going to lie.
Microphone turns sound into electricity.
Oh, Aaron Beam from Red Fang Part 2. And then Lindsay Charles from the cell phones after that. Stay tuned.
Hear me now?
Stay safe out there.
Out on Route 128, you're dark and lonely.
And take it easy.
You got my radio on. Can you hear me now? 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 See in the radio. And that snare drum and that drum roll means we've got a winner. If you're the fifth caller, or any caller at all, welcome to my top 10. I'd like to thank our sponsor. But we haven't got a sponsor. Not if you were the last man on earth. She was prepared to prove it. This one goes out to a special girl. But there is no special girl. It's the end of radio. The last announcer plays the last record. The last what? Leaves the transmitter. Circles the globe in search of a listener. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Is it really broadcasting if there's no one there to receive? It's the end of radio. As we come to the close of our broadcast day, got my radio on. Can you hear me now? see.